Hello, my name is John Paul Harris. I'm the project coordinator for the Wyoming Game Clearinghouse.
Tom.
Oh, sorry. I'm Tom. I'm the IT guy and camera adjuster.
I'm Brandy Brumman, Project Echo Assistant.
I'm Katie Lancaster, an advocate with Protection and Advocacy.
I'm Canyon Hardesty, Coordinator of Community Education here at WIN.
I am Mary Ginzel, occupational therapist, sitting in.
And Lee?
Oh.
I'm Lee Beetleman. I work with Protection and Advocacy. I'm an advocate. I'm just traveling with Katie for a couple days. So I'm a guest.
Thank you and welcome to Lee and Katie. Let's go next to the Department of Education. Vision.
I'm Leslie Bechtel Van Orman, and I coordinate outreach services for students with visual impairments for the department.
Thanks, Leslie, and thanks for continuing to join us.
Hey, yeah, second day in my office.
Yeah.
2 times in a row. Deaf and hard of hearing folks.
Yes, I'm Billy Wortham. I'm an audiologist with Deaf and Hard of Hearing Outreach.
And I'm Christy Fritz, and I'm a teacher of the deaf who also works in outreach for deaf and hard of hearing, and I'm up in the Sheridan area.
Great, thanks, Christy. All right, and for our trainers this week, this is the only week Gail is not available. She's out of town, and our trainers are from Protection and Advocacy, so they are here. Let's go to the districts. Bighorn 1.
Sorry, I was unmuting myself.
Okay,
This is Chris Victor from Bighorn 1. I'm a speech pathologist here. Glad to join you again.
Great, thank you. It's good to see you this week. You were audio last week.
Yes.
Park 6 has returned. I think you're muted, Peg. You'll need to unmute yourself. You're still muted.
I can unmute her, but I was hoping that they would.
Well, no, please go ahead. Okay, now you're okay.
Okay, thanks. I called in on the phone. I probably screwed up. Anyway, I'm the special ed director here in Part 6. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Thanks. We missed you the other weeks. Is there anyone else with you?
Nope, just me.
Okay, thanks. Natrona? Doesn't look like Eric's joined us. Sweetwater?
Hi, my name's Katie Harmon, and I'm a resource teacher here in Sweetwater too.
Thanks, Katie. Casey?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Casey Woodhelm, case manager, Fremont County 1.
Great, thanks, Casey. Teton 1? No? Okay, Olivia's not with Sublet 1.
Yes, Molly Hanson, Life Skills 612.
All right. Sheridan 2? You're muted, Annie. Could you unmute yourself?
Who is that?
Bottom right.
Bottom right. Okay, now you could go ahead.
Better?
Yes.
Okay. Annie Bowers, speech pathologist, Sheridan 2.
Great, thanks, Annie. And Lincoln 2?
Kellen Bagley, speech language pathologist and AT.
Great, thanks, Kellen. And we have Barb, and I'm sorry I didn't get to you sooner. Barb? Tom's going to unmute you. Okay.
I got it, yeah.
Hi, thanks. Hi, Barb Block with Water, and my office is in Lander.
Great, thanks, Barb. Okay, we'll move right to our first case presentation. Oh, I forgot to ask Kenyon. Do you have announcements?
Yeah, just for everybody, so the session for next week for April 18th we're going to cancel it due to kind of competing priorities and Good Friday. So do not join next Friday. We will not be having a session. However, we will pick up same time, 1 o'clock on April 25th. I have one case presentation for that day, but I'm looking for another one. So please, kind of get your cases in. We've got lots of presentations in May, but we do have a couple openings this April 25th as well as the 2nd of May. So get your cases to me so that we can get them on the agenda and introduced. I think that Tom additionally had just kind of a recommendation about the audio and video connections, correct?
Audio.
Okay.
Well, actually both. Yes. We've been doing is if anybody doesn't mute, we've been muting them, and that's where a couple people had some problems. If you're having problems unmuting, you check with your IT person, or you can get a hold of me, and maybe I can help you over the phone. As far as your equipment. The other thing is, once Candy and I get my account set up, we'll send it out, and if anybody needs to test or wants to practice or something, then get a hold of me, and we'll be glad to do it.
Just to let everyone know, Canyon and I have been working on a grant proposal. Those of you who are familiar, it's pretty competitive, but they have a pre-application process right now, and that's the Innovations in Education grant opportunities that they were sort of stemmed from the race to the top. So we're going to try. It's due Monday. We've been working diligently. So if we're invited to submit a full proposal, we will be in touch with you because we will need your participation and help and support. But we're excited. So I think we'll move right now to the case presentations. And Molly, you're going to present on ECHO ID 658.
They have intermittent extrapious strabismus, which I don't know that much about, but it apparently is that they have a hard time tracking both eyes at the same time. One eye or the other can just drift off, which obviously makes some focusing difficult, presents lots of problems. The two problems that we were most looking at is the fatigue that the student experiences and attending when teachers are presenting. So our desired outcome would be, of course, to reduce his fatigue and thereby reduce behaviors. Is in a typical classroom. The receptive language skills are strong, family support is strong, and they indicated spatial awareness as being something they felt was a strength of his. I spoke with both mother and the case manager at the school and the teacher. Disability category currently is other health impaired, but vision as a second. Let's see, and he is in regular classroom 40 to 79% of the day. The current technology that they've tried, they just began speech to text using Nexus and a larger laptop screen. We have laptops for all the students here in our district, and they tend to have very small screens. Asked if they talked about maybe changing the background of the computer screen, the size of the lettering. Haven't done that yet. They have tried self-advocacy, asking for breaks, a 1 to 2 minute break. This has been working, but he's not allowed to take the breaks outside of the room. They reported last year he could walk out to a drinking fountain in the hallway. That seemed to work for him. The color overlays he currently uses are 3 of them together. They're Erlin. It's the aqua, green, and purple. And they reported that it definitely did help the reading rate. And he is placed near a teacher, helps with depth perception. It's reported that on good days he has 20/20 vision to 10 feet, which isn't all that great, makes it very difficult to copy things off the board. They are using a screen on his desk that downloads what's on the smart board and puts it to his desktop. So he has his laptop and then a monitor as well to see what the teacher's writing. He did have double eye surgery to realign the eyes in April 2013. Seems like that has been kind of deteriorating though. Probably will have to have another surgery. They did just return to visit the doctor before spring break. He'd had 13 hours of sleep and had very quiet morning, and they said it was absolutely a great vision assessment. So the doctor said, you really don't want to show anyone these scores because it looks like he's just right on for everything, but all his other doctor's reports have been kind of the poor vision and lots of the strabismus going on. Let's see. Previously, apparently he had been able to concentrate for 20 minutes. Both mom and teacher have verified that it was about 20 minutes at a time. Right now, they're targeting about 4 minutes of attention. When he is not attending, when they say that he is not attending, he is often looking up at the ceiling, covering his eyes, putting his head down on the desk, or will say, oh, my head, hold his head, shields his eyes, complains the lights are too bright. Their goal by the end of the year is to be attending in the classroom for 9 minutes. Student originally resisted the use of color overlays, but mom said, no, you need to use them, and his reading moved from 57 words correct per minute in October to 72 in January. He is currently able to add and subtract to 5. His goal is to add and subtract to 10. However, his class is working on multiplication, so he's being pulled out for that. I have suggested they might try calculator. Mom said she observes the following behaviors when she sees him as fatigued. The teachers reported as non-attending. Shading his eyes, laying his head down, covering his eyes, holding his head, moving to change the field of vision. She said when he appears to be very tired, he will sometimes use both hands to write. So he will hold the pen in one hand and he'll use a finger from his other hand to help support the point while he's writing. As a child, he did not like to color or draw. He likes physical activities. They said that they would read tests to the student and provide him auditory books instead of always having to read the books. And the student was able to attend for 20 minutes at a time. And that came from both the case manager and the parent, that he was able to attend for 20 minutes. Mom is saying these accommodations helped. The case manager wasn't saying anything about that. He could request breaks and leave the classroom. He could, the class was quiet. Both case manager and mom this year have said the class he's in is very busy. There's kids with a number of attention and behavior problems, and that can be distracting to him. Let's see, last they said that they've been at a restaurant, and she noticed that he could not align his eyes, and he finally just said he couldn't handle it. He was so overwhelmed. But seemed again to be a day was really fatigued, in that being that he could not attend anymore. Let's see, so he's trying the desktop screen to relay the smartboard to where he can see it. We're trying raised line paper, reading line guides, pencil grips, adjustable slant reading stand, calculator at home. We're giving those a try. The teacher did just get back with me that the slanted reading stand has definitely helped him. Otherwise, he had a lot of glare off of his Erlen sheets with the book straight down. That's where we are. And I think you guys had some doctor's reports, and I couldn't make heads or tails out of them. I was wondering if Amy was going to be on, because I know she's vision, but I would love some input. Mom and the teacher both would like it. Currently, the teacher is apparently wearing a buzzer that is supposed to go off every 4 minutes to see if he's attending, and I thought, that's asking a lot of the teacher. So teacher and mom would both like some help. And actually, the student was very excited to know that he could get some help as well. So.
All right, Molly. So, but your question today is about vision fatigue, correct?
Mostly the vision fatigue, and I think in a lot of ways that would take care of the behaviors, which sound like they're just indicators of fatigue.
Okay, great. So first we'll open it up for questions. Does anyone have questions or need clarification from Molly?
This is Leslie, and Molly, you talked about his acuity at near. Do you have distance acuity information?
Let me check the reports. Would that be OS? Visual acuity OS?
That's the left eye. I'm just wondering, usually they have acuity for near in both OS and OD, and then an OU, which is both size, but then they often have a distance amount, and I wondered how his vision was different at a distance.
Go ahead.
Let me look at the reports here and see if I can find that.
All right, while she's looking, we'll have our multitask. Are there other questions for her? All right. Anyone in here? Questions? Barb, do you have a question? No? Okay. Go ahead, speak up.
So Leslie, would visual fields, is that what you're looking for? There's a lot of abbreviations here that I'm not familiar with, I'm sorry.
No, it's not the field, and there may not be a second acuity amount on there, but it would be another 20 over something, you know, rating.
Oh, I have, yeah, it's the near the 20/25 and in one eye and 20/30 in the other.
Okay, cool.
So.
All right. Do people, if there's no more questions, thoughts, ideas? JP?
Yes, Molly, definitely an interesting case. And I know you talked about using text-to-speech and maybe having that as an option with digital text. The reason why I say that is because there's a couple options there. With Read and Write Gold, one of the features I like is it has a color overlay that it will overlay the full desktop regardless of what application you're in.
Oh, cool. All right.
You can fine-tune your exact color to match the overlays he's currently using.
Okay.
And then that might actually decrease the glare if he's using actual physical overlays with the book.
Sure.
But you'd want to look at providing digital text, or DAISY is an option too with Read and Write on the desktop. There's another free application I use called SS Overlay.
SS Overlay. Okay.
Yeah. And I'll send these out. I'll send this out to Kenya and send it to the group. That's a nice tool to use, but the color options are limited. I think there's about 8 to 12 colors, maybe up to 16. I can't remember. But you can't fine tune the colors. But you can adjust the transparency level and the brightness. Okay. And so I don't know if that would work particularly with the student, but it sounds like since he does have the desktop, the laptop on the desk. Those are two options right there. So you're not actually having, they're on all the time. So you don't actually have to put a physical overlay.
Okay, and I don't know that he's done it text to speech. He's been doing speech to text for his writing.
Sorry. Oh.
But I think the text to speech could help him as well, because I think he's being asked to do so much visual attending. You know, I asked, is he using large print books, anything like that? And they said, no, he can read regular sized text, but he misses lines because, you know, as he moves between lines, if one of his eyes just takes off, you know, goes to the side for even a little bit, you lose where you are, you know. So I think he definitely could use some more, you know, I think the audiobooks, or like you said, a way of getting his textbooks read.
Okay, thanks, Molly. I think you froze a little bit, but we'll move forward. Kellen, did you have something? I think you're muted. You'll have to unmute yourself first.
No, I was just going to say, we've been looking into I don't know if Molly's district, and the student's pretty young, so they probably aren't using Google Docs at that age, but there's a pretty cheap Read Write Gold application for Google Docs. I think it's $20 per individual student license or something like that. That's all I was going to say.
All right, thanks, Kellen. And if you would be sure and send that to Canyon, as I believe everyone knows, she summarizes the recommendations and sends out a report within a few days. Leslie, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Oh, yeah. I would strongly reinforce what JP said about just the use of audiobooks as a tool to prevent the fatigue and eye strain. You know, some kids may also need additional supports in learning to listen effectively and learning to listen for content when they have challenges that limit their success at attaining things visually. So that might be something the team wants to look at, but I think giving him the supports of audio is going to be really critical. I think also building in breaks from near vision tasks, even though that's where his best vision is, it takes a lot of work to keep your eyes focused to accommodate at near distances. So when he's taking those breaks in class, making sure that he's looking at targets that are far away, because it's not going to be a break if he's looking at a paper in the classroom, and it will be if he's looking out the window for a few minutes, because that'll make a difference in just like sort of relaxing that accommodative level for the eyes. And then I think teachers can also build in natural breaks within the classroom that sort of force everybody to take a visual break, where they say, think about this for a few minutes and close your eyes, and then we're going to answer, something like that. So, and it sounds like the access to the whiteboard is being addressed through the use of another monitor, but another an interesting AT piece that we're using more and more is an app called Join Me on the iPad. It allows you to link to the teacher's computer, and there's a free version that is adequate for students, but so then when the teacher is projecting what's on their screen onto a Promethean board or smart board, and writing on the smart board, that's happening real time on the iPad screen at the student's desk.
Oh, wow.
And it's a nice portable tool that can be used in a variety of settings. So
that'd be great.
Great, thanks, Leslie. And Wendy?
Molly, I have a question. Is a student using an iPad? It's in this report, it talks about a Nexus, and I was just wondering if they've already got some kind of tablet that they're using with him, or if you're exploring other ideas.
Nexus was what somebody had been using, and they had to work with another student, so they were trying it. Mom said she'd be happy to do iPads. We do have them available through our department, and so I think that would be an area to look at as well.
Okay, I'd be happy to recommend some applications that might be beneficial as well. So
that'd be great.
Those.
Okay.
Great. Any other? Oh, Barb, thank you.
I wonder if he could use like a visor once in a while if he's showing some eye strain. And also, I made this text block, you know, so you wouldn't have to make it just like this, but where you could use different colors that would help block out a lot of the text on the page, and then help him, this just slides across the page.
Yeah, hold that up a little longer, would you, Barb?
Yeah.
So it's, you know, construction paper, and then I just cut out, you know, this window, but it could be bigger and longer or whatever. And then I ran it through a laminator. So this sucker is tough.
And Wendy?
I was also wondering if you experimented with different text size to see which size he prefers, the fonts and or size that he prefers.
They hadn't. They just said he's reading everything in his typical textbooks and in books. But yeah, I think the enlarged text might help. Yes.
And JP?
And I meant to address that as well too. Is with the desktop, if it's is it PC?
The laptop that he uses?
Your laptop. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yes, it's PC.
Okay. There are some settings in there to to adjust the font size for everything on the screen, and also maybe drop a possibility to drop the resolution down so everything's bigger, like icons and just words on like any application. And there's a name training video I did that does cover that, accessibility features in Windows 7 and 8.
Is that something that could be on the report that I could share with parents so they can look at it? Because when I talk to them about, even just changing the color of a document, like, I wouldn't know how to do that. So if you've done a tutorial, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'll send that link out, and I definitely have. It's I can't remember the length, but it's a video tutorial we have on our website, and it's just good for quick access. And it does cover all those settings you can make in the background, and it's global is the term. So everything kind of pops up with a larger font size.
Okay, that'd be great.
All right, and Leslie?
Yeah, I was just going to say, when you're looking at larger text, I'd make sure you're keeping really close data on it. For a student who has 20/20 vision at near, larger text may be much more cumbersome than small text.
Okay.
Because it's just about tracking the line, and making things bigger makes it a little bit slower for some students. So I'd just keep data on that piece of it.
Great. Anyway, Tom?
Can I say anything about anything on this? I was just thinking.
You have something done?
Yeah. Well, I was wondering, JP might know. I'm surprised they don't have, like on the books, on like the iPad or whatever, where you can adjust the space between the lines.
Some of them you can.
Okay, because it seems like I noticed myself, I have tracking problems sometimes too. And if I have more space, I have better luck. I just a thought.
Okay. No, that's another good.
Yeah, that is an option, and it's more common with the full-fledged literacy applications like Read and Write and Kurzweil. You can actually make those adjustments. So spacing, there's a term for that too in printing. The spacing actually between the line height,
Right. Without changing the font size, just changing the spacing.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Any other thoughts, Mary?
I was just going to throw out an OT concept is energy conservation. And it sounds like that would be a big thing here for this child. He may be able to do all these things, but what's going to make sense if he has only this much energy? What's the best use of that energy? And so when talking with him, with the parents, with the teachers, energy conservation might be a concept to share with them also.
Great. Were you able to hear that, Molly?
Yes, I did. Yes.
Great.
Thank you. And I was wondering, a lot of it seems like it's sensory, like the integration is either getting fatigued by so much going on hearing-wise or vision in a busy classroom. Is that something that should be evaluated?
I would say yes.
Okay.
Because again, if you only have so much energy and if it's spent blocking out all these other things from the classroom, it doesn't leave as much left to concentrate on what's in front of him. And I don't know if maybe like some sunglasses, like the visor I think somebody mentioned.
Yeah.
It might be to block out some of that might be a really good thing if you've got an OT that can look at that. And especially if there's a lot of things going on visually in the room. Some rooms have stuff all over, and others are pretty clean and neat on the walls. So that might be something to look at.
All right. Sounds like we have
Thank you.
A number of things, Molly. I'll remind everyone who gave a recommendation to please get that to Canyon so that she can get all the recommendations to Molly. I guess I'll take 1 second and pitch also, since you're working closely, it sounds like, with these parents, on our website we do have, it's a book, AT Pointers for Parents, and it can be downloaded, but also we have a few copies, so if you needed one, you can request that from Water. All right, we'll move on.
Thank you.
Else. Thank you, Molly. And we'd ask you to bring the case back as well. We would like to get what you might have tried and how it worked.
Okay, thank you.
And keep in mind, everyone who's talking with you, they're here for ongoing consultation as well. So,
thanks.
Casey?
I am being joined by Glenn Egbert. He's on our AT team.
Oh, great.
So he just joined us.
Oh, well, Glenn.
Thanks.
We're happy to have you here. We'll move to Casey Whittam from Lander and Echo ID 5384.
Okay, this is a student who's fairly new to us, so I thought this would be a great opportunity to maybe explore some low-tech options for this student. We qualified this student with a learning disability back in October, but at that time we determined that student didn't have a need for services and agreed to re-meet again in spring. So here we are. We had the IEP meeting scheduled for today, but fortunately parents were not able to come. So we rescheduled it for Monday. It worked out well for this. But this student, pretty typical in terms of learning disability characteristics. Like I said, I haven't had a lot of time to work with him. I did work with him a little bit yesterday, and the main concern would be reading fluency, and that ties into all sorts of other academic areas, obviously. But the weird thing with this student's reading fluency is most students who I've worked with, and other teachers have mentioned this as well, when exposed to multiple readings of the same document will improve on that fluency, and the students kind of remains stagnant on that no matter how many times they read the passage. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Another interesting point about this student is in the spring of 2013, they were at a MAP score in reading at the 50th percentile, and in the fall came back at the 4th percentile. And then again in the winter test, they were only at the 8th percentile, and their RIT score wasn't even up to where they were in the spring. So I'm not sure something happened there developmentally that could have affected this student or what's going on there. So that was kind of a weird statistic. There's no documentation of any assistive technology tried in the past. The student's in a classroom where a teacher is not proficient in using assistive technology, and so not certain that anything has been tried. There are some attention concerns as well as a few social issues, nothing major, but just little things that the teacher mentioned. On a second grade reading passage, the student was able to read 28 words per minute, but fairly accurate with 95% accuracy. I did a maze probe, which is where the student picks out which word out of 3 words fits within a sentence, and it's kind of a way to measure basic comprehension and sentence structure. And although he was slow at that, he was 100% accurate, so it tells me that he's got some basic understanding of sentence structure and some comprehension, although teachers have mentioned that higher level thinking skills are an issue. Had the teacher fill out the student information guide, and I'm not going to read through this entire thing, but it's pretty basic in terms of what you would think of a student with a learning disability in the area of reading would be. Then again, they said students' performance is improved by, and then they listed multiple things. So I'd love to get in the classroom and see how often those are actually being utilized, such as enlarged print, pre-teaching concepts, graphics to communicate ideas, and some of those other things listed on that SIG form. One of the, being a second grader, the difficulty comprehending is basically the textbooks and tests, because that's a lot of what they work with in there. Approximate age level is a 6-year-old reading level. I'm assuming that's not grade 6. Cognitive ability, teacher said below average. Our testing showed that he was in the average range, but so he's presenting as below average in the classroom. Yeah, she said first grade level reading skills going into 3rd grade. So reading, math, and spelling are all concerns though. And that is the information I have.
All right, Casey, thanks. Are there questions? First within the room. All right, other questions from those of you on video?
Casey, I had a question. I'm sure his hearing's been screened. Is that something you have record of?
Yeah, he passed the hearing and vision screenings.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, we'll open it up for discussion. Oh, Chris.
I'm sorry, I had a question. I was just wondering if he has a history of chronic middle ear problems or anything like that.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, other questions? All right, we'll open it up for discussions, recommendations. Anyone here in the room?
Again, remembering that not very much low-tech stuff has been tried. So, but I'm open up for mid to high-tech as well. But
Sure.
That would be.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but we could look at some high-tech options, high-tech AT, maybe some loans from the water lab. But, you know, this difficult case, I mean, you might want to, we could try many features, the literacy applications, maybe iPad, but, you know, I don't know if that, you know, I don't know if that would be effective. So sounds challenging for sure.
well, thinking of his fluency concerns and how he's kind of stayed at that level, I think we're kind of knocking on the door of looking at some sort of text-to-speech type of thing for him for access for when he gets into third grade. But I also I don't want to give up on that reading fluency piece either. But
And when I'm thinking of literacy applications, you know, maybe some things that could benefit, and also, you know, text-to-speech, but, you know, picture dictionaries, mind maps or concept maps, things like that. I don't know if that would, you know, going to be able to help the student or guide the student. And then with reading, you know, comprehension, might be some benefit there. Definitely with word highlighting during text-to-speech. Some options there maybe with the bigger literacy applications.
Yeah.
I like that.
Okay, other thoughts from those of you on video? Barb or Wendy?
I definitely agree with JP's recommendations. So looking at his, and I know you said you haven't worked with him much, but how about comprehension with his reading? You know, with the difference between fluency and comprehension, he seems that, you know, he is distracted, so there could be some things going on with what he's understanding. Even though he looks like he's reading words correctly, he's pretty accurate with the words he's reading, but is he understanding what he's reading as well?
Yeah, according to teacher, comprehension is low, and also our testing results show that comprehension is low, but it's hard to determine how much of that is based on the fluency, that super low fluency rate, and it's really laborious when he's reading, like it's almost painful for him to be reading. So I didn't know if there's any sort of tracking devices that are like, I don't know, I saw like Barb was showing one that she had made, and so I did take note on that, but yeah, I don't know if there's ways to even check the tracking piece to see if that's one of the issues vision wise.
Gary?
I would just recommend an OT eval. Look at maybe some of these attention issues of what is he attending to and what's going on around him, and are there some things that could be done that could help bring his attention closer to where he's at? But maybe a good OT eval with sensory issues.
We did evaluate for occupational therapy, and he will be receiving those services. So that'll be good to track to see how that's helping.
Good. Billy?
Thank you, Sandy. Casey, I just had a question. My husband's an eye doctor, and I only learned through him vicariously, but has this student had a comprehensive eye exam or just the screening?
I can't say. I know he's just had the school screening. I can ask parents on Monday if they've had a comprehensive eye exam.
Yeah, I would say if they have not had a comprehensive one, I would really recommend it, because the screenings, although they do a great job, there's certain things they don't test for in the schools.
Oh, yeah.
Like I say, I only know that through being in his office for so many years. And some of it could be related to his fluency, just being able to track those words on the page. Or, okay, I'm going to shut up now because I'm not an eye person, but I would recommend if he hasn't had a comprehensive one, I would do that.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And we could go to the vision specialist and ask Leslie to weigh in. Leslie, is there anything? Oh, there. Okay. Up. You're muted.
I didn't touch it.
Okay.
I think Billy did great.
Okay. Great, thanks. And in Molly's, sorry.
My name's Glenn. I'm a district technologist. However, just one idea for an app that you might consider that we've been using in our elementary school is Raz Kids. And it tracks fluency over time. It aligns to the reading A to Z materials. So it gives you a wide range of levels from, A to Z, kinder, I believe, through 5th grade reading material. But it also has options where it will read the stories to you, and it's got a really nice voice. It's not computer generated, it's a real voice. So, but it also has intermittent benchmark fluency tests. So it might be a good tool for progress monitoring, but also for text to speech.
Thanks. Is it RAZ Kids?
Yeah, it stands for Reading A to Z, but we
have
an
a
acronym RAZ.
So is that a pay app?
Yeah, it's about $90 for 30 student licenses per year.
Okay, thank you.
So it's pretty reasonable.
Not bad.
Great, thanks, Glenn. Any other thoughts? Barb, anything that you were thinking of? No, okay. Anyone else here in the room? All right, and any other comments? Doesn't look like it. All right, thank you. And Casey, thanks. Again, please, if you gave recommendations, get those to Canyon. Great. All right. We want to welcome Katie Lancaster, and Lee is hiding in the corner. But they're both with Protection and Advocacy, and we'll turn it over to you, Katie.
All right.
Got a quick question. Do you want that over there and this over here? How do you want it?
That's perfect.
Or just leave it like that and make it over here? And share that out.
Just share it.
Okay. Sorry, I just.
And Katie, the camera's right there.
Oh, okay. All right.
Once I
It's
find my
hidden there.
mouse. There it is. What happened there?
Bear with us for 1 minute.
Yeah,
While
we're just-
Tom gets.
You can just slide it over.
Yeah, I may have to. That's weird.
Okay, great.
Can
So if we can go to a slideshow, then I think she's ready to go.
okay. I don't know what happened to our people.
Casey, you may want to mute yourself because you're coming up on the screen.
I don't know about anyone else, but I'm not seeing most of the PowerPoint.
Are you seeing any of it?
I'm just seeing like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like the baby slides over to the left.
Oh, okay. Well, let's. Where is the slideshow? Bottom right. Bottom right. Okay, I don't see where.
I think you were just right over here.
Oh, there.
Are you seeing it now, Billy? Okay, great. If someone else isn't seeing it, please let us know.
Yeah, just unmute yourself and holler at us. Okay. Okay.
All right, Katie, thank you. And thanks for being here. Welcome to ECHO.
Okay, so I'm with Protection and Advocacy, and one of our 8 programs is our Assistive Technology program. And just a little disclaimer before we start, we're a nonprofit, federally funded agency that's independent from any state or federal programs. We're not an assistive technology vendor, and we do not provide any assistive technology devices or pay for services or devices. And today Protection and Advocacy can be a really good resource for professionals and educating families, especially when they're getting to transition age. And so I wanted to give an overview of all 8 programs that we have. And I'm kind of skipping around. Sorry.
That's okay. Well, if you can just maybe prompt on.
Yeah, just let me know.
Okay.
I don't know.
And learn about a few federal laws that are applicable to assistive technology. So next slide, an overview of Protection and Advocacy. We're part of the National Disability Rights Network, which is one of the largest disability rights law firm in the nation. Like I mentioned before, we're independent of any state or federal program and any providers. And we receive service requests from people with disabilities and their guardians or other legal representatives. And I'll go over our 8 programs, but one of the things we also do is we conduct investigation related to allegations of abuse, neglect, and other rights violations. And then the next slide shows all 8 of our programs. And Protection and Advocacies were created in each state by the Developmental Disabilities Assistance and Bill of Rights Act in the 70s. And Congress passed this act in response to some pretty deplorable living conditions that were found for people with disabilities living in institutions. And actually, Geraldo Rivera was involved. He went into the institution in New York, Willowbrook, and found, a lack of adequate services, no medical care, things like that. And so Congress created Protection and Advocacies, or PNAs for short. We like acronyms. To be the protector of client rights. And so in this first program, PAID for short, the Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities Program, we primarily conduct abuse or neglect investigations in community service providers and also the Wyoming Life Resource Centers, our state institution for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. The next program is the Protection and Advocacy for Individuals with Mental Illness, and we conduct abuse and neglect investigations at the state hospital. And in this, our PAMI and PAAT program, we do a lot of information and referral services, connecting people with resources in their communities, educating people about their rights, going out and doing presentations like Lee and I have been all week, making sure people are aware of their rights and things like that. The next program is the Client Assistance Program, which Lee Beetleman is the CAP director. And this program is designed to assist people who are using services with vocational rehabilitation, which might be some of the professionals in the room might be helping with transition age students and who are using vocational rehabilitation. And if they're having issues with their counselor or concerned about the services that they're getting, the Client Assistance Program is who they can contact. And also if they're having concerns with independent living. Did I cover it all, Lee? Since he's the expert over there. Okay. And then Congress created the Protection and Advocacy of Individual Rights Program, just because not everyone fit into our intellectual and developmental disabilities program or our mental illness program. So this helps assist people who might have orthopedic disabilities, ADHD, learning disabilities, things like that. And we do a lot of information and referral services. A lot of times if people are being discriminated against in housing, or their service animal isn't being, they want to go to their favorite restaurant, their service animal isn't allowed in with them, we help people try to correct those issues and make complaints if that's the best route. And then we have the assistive technology program, and I'll kind of skip that for now because we'll go on to that in a little bit. And then we have the beneficiaries of Social Security program, and this is really similar to our client assistance program, but if they're a person that's on Social Security, they would just fit into this program. If they're between the ages of 18 and 64 and they're looking to maintain, regain, or maintain their employment, they could receive services through this program. And then some of you might be more familiar with our Protection and Advocacy for Voter Access program, and this helps implement the Help America Vote Act of 2000 and helps modernize the electoral process so that there's accessible voting machines in every polling location. And when this program first started, staff from PNA went to every polling location to make sure that everything was ADA accessible. If people were in wheelchairs or used a walker, they would be able to enter the polling place. A lot of times we get questions from guardians or case manager if their ward has the right to vote, and so we can review guardianship orders to determine if that person has the right to vote. We do a lot of outreach on training people how to use accessible voting machines and things like that. And then our traumatic brain injury program, and it's a real small program. We only have one person that works in that program, and that's Angie Mason. And that provides a lot of the same services as our DD and mental illness program that we do abuse neglect investigations, a lot of information referrals and educating people about their rights. And another thing I wanted to mention too, I guess I skipped over this, but in our office, we have advocates and attorneys as well, and we are considered a disability law firm. And we have offices in Cheyenne and Lander to help cover the whole state. Okay, I think I'm ready for the next slide. Okay, the Assistive Technology Program was created in 1994, and Congress provided money to Protection and Advocacies to assist individuals with disabilities and their family members, guardians, advocates, and authorized representatives in accessing technology devices and assistive technology services. Next slide. And this is really similar to our other programs. So we do a lot of information and referral. We do a lot of referrals over to water. If somebody calls us, and sometimes we get a call and says, is there such thing as, some device? And I say, oh, Wendy, I know I've done that before. So send them over to water. We do outreach like today and training and educating people about their rights so they can be effective self-advocates and any individual and systemic advocacy. And a lot of times we're contacted because someone's denied funding for an assistive technology device, so we can kind of walk them through the different areas that they could go and acquire assistive technology devices. So that might be an early intervention program, Medicaid, Medicare, an independent living program, and vocational rehabilitation. And another thing I wanted to mention, actually next slide, I'll mention it on this slide. And most importantly, that this program helps facilitate the transition of persons with disabilities from institutional settings to the community through access to assistive technology devices and services in areas such as employment, housing, and transportation. And just important that people with disabilities live in their home communities in the least restrictive environment, because as a federally protected right to live as independently as possible. And right now on our website, and all the information is on the last slide, but on our website we have a lot of our brochures and information. We have an assistive technology information sheet that's new, that's on our website now. And it talks about how important assistive technology can be in helping a person live as independently as possible, whether that's with housing, education, employment, or even helping them get out and go fishing. there's a lot of different options and resources like water and vocational rehabilitation and things like that. Okay, next slide. So today we're going to talk about the Fair Housing Act, the Americans with Disabilities Act, or the ADA, and Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act. And there are other federal laws that apply to assistive technology, like the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, and actually the Air Carrier Access Act, which covers service animals. But I wanted to focus on these three laws because they're more consistent with what types of services we can provide at Protection and Advocacy, because we are limited in what services we can provide in special education. So a lot of this might be geared towards kids going into transition, going into post-secondary education, or some sort of vocational training. Okay, so next slide. The Fair Housing Act, and the Fair Housing Act places responsibilities on the providers of public or government subsidized housing to ensure that people with disabilities are free from discrimination that's based on generalizations, stereotypes, or biases. And examples of discrimination under the Fair Housing Act can be a refusal to make reasonable accommodations in rules, policies, practices, or services when such accommodations may be necessary to afford an equal opportunity to use and enjoy the dwelling. For example, a certain apartment building has a no pet policy. So an accommodation, a reasonable accommodation for a person with a disability who has a service animal is to ask that the no pet policy be waived, because a service animal is not a pet, it's a working animal. And also that person, there should be no fees to have a pet there. Those fees should be waived. So that's a pretty easy example of a reasonable accommodation. And an example of assistive technology, maybe not a high-tech example, but can be considered assistive technology. Okay, and then the next slide talks more about reasonable accommodations, and that can be the removal of a physical barrier or the installation of a device that allows an individual to access the inside or outside of the unit or common area. And the request has to be reasonable. It can't place like an undue burden on the landlord. So it can't be outrageously expensive when there's other alternatives that might be available. And one assistive technology example might be flashing doorbells for someone who is deaf, and other things like grab bars and lower counters or ramps. Any other ideas in housing of AT? Flashing doorbell was one of them.
What about flashing, flashing fire alarms?
Yeah, exactly. Pretty reasonable accommodation. Okay. So that's just a real quick overview of the Fair Housing Act. That it is important, especially for people going out into their own apartments for the first time and being independent. Just letting them know that they do have rights outside of, outside of IDEA. There are other federal laws that can help protect them against discrimination. Okay, the next slide. Okay, and then the Americans with Disabilities Act, and there's 3 titles to the ADA. And the first